Now, as we know and as we've been reporting, we are continuing with the build-up to that address at 7 o'clock here at Parliament, which is now occupying the City Hall's precinct. Now, the agricultural sector is crying foul at the moment over the ongoing power cuts and their implications on the country's food security, imports, and generally the farming sector. Let's have a word now with Wandile Sihlobo on what the sector itself expects to hear tonight from President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. Sihlobo is the Chief Economist at Agricultural Business Chamber of South Africa. Wandile, good afternoon. Welcome to eNCA. Well, let's just begin with that overriding question to you. Your expectation as a sector for what the President should say in order to boost confidence in yourselves and also for the sector in terms of future prospects.
Thanks, Braden. I think agriculture, like any other sector of the economy, will be watching the message around the energy space. You've heard our colleagues from various commodities already detailing what some of the difficulties that they face. But of course, there is also some work that the sector has been doing with Minister Titiza on the Department of Agriculture to say what are some of the intervention at a departmental level that can be made together with the sector to address the issue of power crisis. But I think at a national level, that's the big issue that we'll be watching. But there are some sub-issues, sectoral focused, that perhaps maybe will either be reflected in the president's side or the minister may speak on these at a later stage. That's the issue of widening the export markets for a range of products that we produce. We still have countries that we've outlined that we are interested in. The second one, of course, it's around the municipalities. We want to hear a little bit more about what will be done on strengthening the municipalities, and that links with some of the network industry functioning. If you think about roads and rail, which Stephen was just talking about, into those things. So those are some of the things that we sit worried about as agriculture in a broad space. But of course, there's always, like any South African, a need to hear what's the focus on land reform. There might be a one sentence or so maybe the president might have to say about this issue, but we will be interested to hear what he's thinking about it as well.
Yeah, because land reform is very important. In fact, it's one of the areas that he had mentioned last year, especially also now because the IPPs, from what we've heard, will have to get land, for example, to build up these renewable sources of power power supply. But the process has been slow. Is there anything in particular around land reform that you'd like to get some more implementable action around? Is there a sticking point that borders the sector?
I think, Braden, the president made a useful intervention in his last State of the Nation address when he had said there must be an establishment of what he called the Agricultural Development and Land Reform Agency. The Department of Agriculture has been working on establishment of that. I think what many people in the sector are sitting waiting now is to say, when will that be launched? Because in our understanding is that it will primarily be focused on redistribution of land, are already managing some of the land assets that the state is sitting with. And of course, when you deal now with the energy related issues that you were raising, there are issues like what we call SPLUMA, which deals with the rezoning of the land for some that want to subdivide it and use certain portion for energy and all of those things. So those will be the details that I think will be managed at a departmental level. But I think more broadly at a national level, it's about when will the land agency be launched. And the hope is that it will focus on that redistribution and it will make speed dealing or redistributing some of the land that is already sitting in the government hands, in addition to any other interventions that may be made around this topic in due time.
Yeah, Wandile, I would assume, which is dangerous, that you may have seen this review that the government has been distributing in the last day or two, including us in the media, where they are setting out what the president promised at last year's SONAs and giving a tick or not about what has been achieved. It does cover, as you said, agriculture, accelerating land reform, and the establishment of this Agriculture and Land Reform Development Agency. That has not yet happened. and it's supposed to strengthen area-based planning and supporting emerging farmers. The other one is moving ahead with land reform with the expropriation bill. That's not yet been achieved. And in this review document, Wandile, the comment is that it is now under consideration by the NCOP. There was also supposed to be a finalization of transfer of 14,000 hectares of public land from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to the Housing Development Agency. So there's a number of key land issues there, as you say, that need to be addressed, and it's going to be very critical that we don't forget the emerging farmer.
Absolutely, Braden. But I would make a point there, Braden, and say, look, as the private sector agriculture and in also our work within the public sector, it's quite clear that there is already some groundwork that has been made but not fully publicized, particularly if you think about setup of this land agency. The Department of Agriculture colleagues have done some work there. We've interacted with them quite a bit setting that up. As well as in other aspects that you were leading to, which is why I was a bit more enthusiastic in my previous point to say perhaps maybe now we're waiting to say when is the launch, because we gain comfort for seeing the progress that they have made at a departmental level in response to all of those points that you have outlined. But of course, as you rightly say, we are at a point now where we say that really the policy in agriculture in South Africa should be, say, commercialization of black farmers, getting them into a commercial scale whereby they will not only be dependent to the state year in, year out for inputs, but then that commercialization drive is not at an expense of smallholder farmers to say they shouldn't be, no one should pay attention onto that angle. I think there's still going to be a lot of focus that will be paid onto that. But again, some of this color and the nuance, I would expect it that perhaps at a departmental level it will come up, but it's for the president maybe to just make a broad pronouncement there to give a sense of what's the focus, which I hope he will do.
Thank you very much, Wandile Sihlobo there, Chief Economist there from Agricultural Business Chamber of South Africa.